Thank you, Danny and Liz. It's good to see everybody. Fall is here. It's kind of Halloweeny out there. Football weather, as they say. This is one of those apples. I just wanted you to see it.
It's nice and red.
Yeah, it is. It. I have a sack full of it if anybody wants one before you go. Should talk to Karen like that, should I tell people at work, I've been there 3.5 years now. 3.5 years, and so you kind of think after 3.5 years you kind of have seen everything that can go wrong with a computer. But I face things all the time that I've never seen before. And I tell people around there, I said, I hate learning things. You and I. Learning things makes my head hurt. Didn't used to thrill at learning things, but sometimes learning things these days is more difficult for me than ever before. I guess we all experience that if you're getting older like me, so it's hard to learn new things. Sometimes we just look at new things and just decide we don't care anything about it at all and avoid it. This life is just getting ready for the next life. This is like our training. It's our audition. Audition to decide whether we get to part or not. So we're not auditioning whether we get to heaven or not, but everything that's happened to you so far and everything that's going to happen is getting you ready for, you're being prepared for something. Don't ever believe that when you get to heaven that you're just going to lay around eating banana pudding all day stroking a heart. It's going to be exciting. Now, I'm not telling you you're going to have to plow, or the Lord says, we got streets of gold here, but they need the hedges trimmed. We need somebody someone with a blower to come by here. And it's not like that. I believe it's beyond our imagination. I believe it's one of the Lord said, there's no need trying to tell you. You just can't imagine it. You just can't. It's just going to be so great. There's not anything that's without value in this life. I believe that every piece and every part is getting us ready. I want to show you that tonight, and I want to show you from personal experience what I've seen, what I believe. And sometimes when you hear somebody say, or maybe when you say to yourself, well, I'm going to teach him a lesson. I remember hearing Jerry Clower, he used to say, he had a saying, I think he was quoting one of it. I don't know what y'all get on y'all's phone. Terry sent me a text last week that says, well, who were some of the people that Jerry Clower talked about?
Ledbetters.
The Ledbetters. I said Marcel Ledbetter, and there's Uncle Bercy Ledbetter. There's Marcel Adele. And so then she just said, thank you. Okay. Passed that test. I figure when I get to heaven, Jesus is going to say, okay, before you come in now, who were all the Ledbetters? I have to name them. But he used to say, Jerry Clower would say, I'll break you from sucking eggs. I'll break you from sucking eggs. I think there's probably something that happens on a farm where someone would be sucking eggs. Maybe it was the local dog or the cat or something, and you had to break them from you. You couldn't. It's not permitted. I don't know. That's not one that I know the background of, and I haven't researched it. I'll get back with you on that. Y'all let me know if you know what sucks eggs and why you need to. I know why you need to stop. You don't know what I'm doing that. Sometimes you might say, well, I'll teach you a lesson. Well, that sounds like a terrible threat. You're going to do something ugly, and that's what it. You teach her every day. That's what she was going to do, or he was going to teach you a lesson. Teach you a lesson. But teach you a lesson today kind of sounds like I'm going to do something mean to you, and then you'll know. So it's not. We don't think of it in a positive connotation. Tell you what, Andy, if you would go to the very last slide in this slideshow, because we're going to start with the last slide, then go back to the first. Now that you've seen this, I really don't need to preach this sermon. We could just really all go home.
That's the last one.
No, what?
That's the last one.
Okay, go back 1 minute. All right, keep going. Keep going. I guess I had this in my brain. How about 2 Chronicles? Here we go. Once. Pardon me. Not the last, but near the end. This is the one. I worked my way to this passage in one of the most difficult times in my life. And I wish, I told the Lord, I wish you kind of started me out here. But he said, no, it all worked. It's just right. So, but the reason he wanted me to learn that, so I think I could teach you a lesson tonight. Well, that's what I want to do. Here's 2 Chronicles 32, 27 through 29. Hezekiah, if you want a kind of a reference, Hezekiah was that king, do you remember? And God sent the prophet to him and said, well, get your house in order, you're going to cash in, you're going to die. Well, it just upset Hezekiah so bad. He'd been really a good king. He was one of those good and godly kings that did what the Lord wanted. And he kind of felt a little let down, and he cried, and he complained about it, whined about it again, acted a little bit silly about it. And so he prayed, and the Lord said, all right, I'm going to give you some more time. And he gave Hezekiah some more time. He said, okay, I'm going to let you live a little while longer. So he did. So that's really kind of what Hezekiah's famous about. But here, let me look at this. Hezekiah had exceeding much riches and honor, and he made himself treasuries for silver and for gold, and for precious stones, and for spices, and for shields, for all manner of pleasant jewels. Just very wealthy. Storehouses also for the increase of corn and wine and oil, and stalls for the manner of beasts, and coats for the flocks. Moreover, he provided him cities and possessions of flocks of herds in abundance, for God had given him substance very much. This King James English is really, really stilted right here. We don't talk like it. He was just made him very, very, God made him very, very wealthy. Okay, look at the next slide there, and then we'll go back. This same Hezekiah also stopped the upper watercourse of Gihon, and brought it straight down to the west side of the city of David, and Hezekiah prospered in all his works. Now, if you go to the old city of Jerusalem, down on the northern end of Jerusalem where they're still excavating, it's just outside the wall, there's a little place where they'll take you down underneath the city of Jerusalem and underneath the Temple Mount, and there's a spring there and a waterworks. And Hezekiah, he brought water into, so that even if they were surrounded by enemies, they'd have fresh water. And that's what it's talking about, that's the Gihon Springs. Howbeit, now this verse 31 is this, the kicker. Howbeit in the business of the ambassadors of the princes of Babylon, who sent unto him to inquire of the wonder that was done in the land, and that doesn't mean anything to us because we didn't know about that, but everybody, that's something, the princes of Babylon had made a big deal about coming to establish a relationship with Israel, and they were going to forge an alliance through Hezekiah. So in that matter, in that business, God left him. God left him to try him, to test him, to put him to the test, that he might know all that was in his heart. I remember, it's happened a long time ago, that when I was in the middle of all that, I happened to be with a very good friend of mine, his wife. We traveled, we went to see them, and we were just talking. And like I said, I wasn't in a very good mood. I wasn't in a very good place. And I brought this up, and he didn't even believe it was in the Bible. We talked for hours. And he just kept explaining to me how God didn't leave Hezekiah. And I guess I was infuriating. All I kept saying was, God left him. And then he would talk for another hour, and then I would just lean forward at the table and say, yeah, all that's true. But God left him. Regardless of how many times you look at me and tell me that God has never left anybody, God, I know. left him. He left him. So I want to start there to let you know that I believe that God not only did that to Hezekiah, I believe he does it to all of us. And there's a purpose to it. There's a point. It means something. It doesn't mean that Hezekiah was no longer saved. It doesn't mean that God wasn't watching over him and loving him and leading him and caring for him. It doesn't mean that God turned his back on him and just disowned him. It doesn't mean any of that at all. It does mean, however, that God left him. It means something. So we're going to look at that. Let's go back to the first, Andy, and forgive me for my mistake in the first. Go back to the water slide, and we'll go from there. All right, then next. I learned, yes, everything has a purpose. You're learning a lesson. This is important. This right here may seem like it's meaningless, how in the world could something like this have any value in my life? Why does this have to happen? And it's never just that. What you're going through, and what this is, this terrible thing, this thing that you're having to endure right now is connected to something you've already been through. It's a building block that's attached to that. If not, then there's a possibility that it's not. If not, it's attached to something that you're going to go through. This may be the first block, the first step. And this is going to be connected. This is going to have something to do. If, according to how this goes, it will determine how I handle or what happens later down the road. So it's very, very important to think that there's not anything random or scattered in your life. There's not anything that's pointless or empty or has no value or just filler or stuffing. It's either connected to something you've already been through, and that's good because you can say, we're going to look at something tonight. We have been looking at something, and I want to show you that what we've been looking at is connected to something else. That Jesus is teaching his disciples. And believe me, listen, this is so important. And I say this with the utmost respect and deference. The disciples were stupid. And the Lord called them because they were challenged. They didn't know everything that you and I know. They didn't seem like they didn't know anything. He seemed like he chose a bunch of people who were just completely blank, and he would just ride all over them. And that's so good because he knew that as he led them, we would have a record of it, and that we could say, man, that's so good because I needed to see that. I needed to know that. And the disciples God was using these. I'm going to use these boys, and I'm going to teach them some of the most important things of getting through this world to the next world. All right? You may not be like me. I like for everything to make sense, and for everything to look like it makes sense. This doesn't make any sense. It doesn't. What is this? This seems to be meaningless or pointless. I want to see why. That's my question. You will only ask why if you're the kind of person who wants to know why. A lot of people now, sometimes, not often, but sometimes I really envy people. They never ask why. They're just going through life, la, 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 and I love Jesus, and it doesn't matter what, it's God's will, and we'll just accept it as it comes. I'm thinking, don't you just ever fall down on your knees and say, why? No, I know lots of Christians who never do that. Man, it never occurs to them. They're just going through life. Sometimes I wish I could be like that. Maybe they're missing a lot. Let's go on. Let's go to the next slide. We're looking at, it's like a quatrain tonight, 5 parts. The multitudes and the disciples. Now this may seem to be just like part of the story that's just, this is just part of the story that's really not part of the story. But as it turns out, this is the point. This is the point. Let's look right here. Come on, Andy. This is the same scripture. When they had eaten, were about 5,000 men besides the women and children. Remember, he just finished feeding the 5,000. Okay, he's there at the top of it. And straightway Jesus constrained his disciples to get into a ship and to go before him on the other side, while he sent the multitudes away. And when he had sent the multitudes away, he went up into a mountain apart to pray. And when the evening was come, he was there alone. Okay, leave it right there for just a minute, because I need people to be able to look at that while I say something. There's more going on here than just a change of scenery or the dispersion of the crowd after an event. Jesus, someone we think of as like a hen bringing his chicks in, or he's like the shepherd who's leading his flock. But here, he's doing something that you don't ordinarily think of one of the things that Jesus does. In other words, if Jesus is here in our service, he doesn't send people away. That there's never a circumstance or a situation where Jesus ever tells people, go away. But this is important. You might think, well, he would never, he might hurt somebody's feelings. Sometimes, I know I love to see people kind of hang around at church and do a little fellowship talk. And you've heard me say, y'all don't have to go home, but you can't stay here. Because I want to walk up to church and go home. I'm just kidding. Well, you stay as long as you want to. And I always want to be the last one to leave. But, I'm never in a hurry to go. I may, if I ever gave that impression. That's just kidding. Just kidding. I love if you're staying, it means you enjoy. We don't get to see each other enough, and that's a good sign. And so, if I ever literally got up and you knew that I meant it, okay, everybody, go away. I'm sending you away. Well, Jesus sent the multitudes away, and he purposefully, intentionally. Now this is where you know that the first part was, the crowd's got to go somewhere, but I want you to get this picture that's not recorded here in the scripture of Jesus Christ, your Lord and Savior, standing up in front of the crowd and say, hey, get out of here, go home. I don't know what he said, but what do you think he said? Everyone please depart, or return to your homes. No, he probably said, all right, everybody, go home, go away, show's over. Nothing to see here. I don't know what he said. But it says he sent the multitudes away. It's a multitude. He had to do it loud. Yeah. And he had to get up, and I don't know what he said. But I can imagine in my mind that if I had seen that, I'd say, now there's an image of Jesus that I had never stored away in my mind. Of Jesus standing up in front of a whole bunch of people, telling them to hit the road. Go away. You're getting on my last nerve. Go. It's over. I'm done. I'll see you again. But it's over today. I don't know what he said. But he may have hurt somebody's feelings. And a lot of them didn't want to go. He had to send them away. It's not the kind of thing. Me and my family, we're strange. Every one of us, I reckon. We go to the movie and the movie's over. You know what people do when they're in a movie theater and the movie's over? Do you know what they do? Yeah, they get up and leave. We never do. Man, we stand there and we read every one of the credits. We read everybody's name because that's somebody's son. That's somebody's daughter. That's somebody's niece or nephew. And they got their name in Star Wars. And look at there. And they got funny names. And every once in a while, the filming industry knows that there are people just like us. Do you know why I know that? Because you don't know it because you get up and leave. But they've been throwing in funny stuff after the credits. You didn't know that, did you? Yeah. If you'll stay there and watch all the credits, some of the best parts of the whole movie are at the very end. And they're just for us. Everybody else is gone. It's just me and my family there. And the movie stars come in there and they start showing you bloopers or things that they did or funny lines. Or just talking right to you, Evidently, we don't know when to leave, or maybe we do know when to leave. But I had never had this image in my mind nor could I transplant it into the church where Jesus would get up in front of people who love him and care for him, or at least came to see him and say, all right, that's enough. That isn't go. Go away. Now, it came to the disciples, and it doesn't say they argued with him or questioned him or even argued with him or asked him why. He just said, all right, get in a boat. Get in a boat and go out, go away. Go away. He told the disciples that. Get in a boat. And they said, you mean like we've done before? He said, yeah, only this time I'm not going with you. Get in a boat, Jesus told his disciples, and go. Well, what if your daddy told you that, or your mama came in the house one day and said, all right, y'all got to go. Get out of the house. Now, just for a little while, but you got to go. I'm going to get me some Calgon, I'm going to light me some candles, and I'm going to go run me a bathtub. Y'all got to go. I'm going to lock the door. I'm gone. Y'all got to go. I don't know. But here's the key. Jesus went up into a mountain to pray. When the evening was come, he was there alone. Now that's just Matthew's way of expressing how he felt. Like Jesus went up there just all by himself. In other words, what was he saying? He didn't even take us with him.
Yeah, we thought we'd get to go.
Yeah. For about 4 years, we've been able in our family to go places and do things with Addison. And Avery just go home with Mom and Daddy. Well, that's done. That's about done. We pretty much got to take them both now. Where's Addison? She was with Uncle Danny and Liz. Huh? What? What? She was pops. She's over at Mingus. Huh? So that is not working. We just you go with Mom and Daddy. We're going to go do something fun without you. And she'd say, okay. And she'd just go. And now she said, oh, no, I'm smarter now. I'm growing up. That ain't going to work. I don't know how it's going with y'all. Sometimes it's just not fun to take them both someplace. They fuss and fight all the time. I know yours don't. I'm thinking, man, just if you take one of them, man, it's just like, I guess if you had a dozen, if you took one, it'd be like, this is so much fun. You take two, this ain't as much fun. But those days are over. So when Matthew says he was alone, he's not saying he was alone. It's just said he went without us. He went to Walmart without us. Let me ask you a question. Was Jesus alone? Well, no, he wasn't alone. The whole point of to sending the disciples away was so he could be with somebody. His Father. He could be with his Father. Now, this is it. Because the key word tonight is distance. Distance. When you send somebody away, or somebody's going to be gone, or they're over there and you're over here, or you send them away, or you go away, or there's something going on where there's... Now listen, I want to talk to you about the distance from God. Now listen, I know that God is everywhere. God, you can't run away from God, you can't hide from God. But listen, the Bible talks about our fellowship, our relationship, that the sense of warmth. Did you ever play a game where something was hidden, where one child would hide something, and then the other person would say, well, where'd you hide it? Well, you're getting cold, or you're getting warm.
Yeah.
And then they got closer. Well, they got farther away from it. They said, oh, no, you're getting freezing cold. You're just getting... And they'd move, and eventually they say, oh, you're getting hot. You're getting very hot. Yeah, and then here it is. It was underneath this cup here. I'm not talking about geographical proximity. I'm not talking about GPS locations. I'm talking about how close are you to the Lord. I'm not talking about in Alabama or California or on this side of the world, or whether he's in heaven and you're on earth. I'm talking about what Jesus was seeking here. You see, Jesus is from heaven, and he's down here on the earth. Now, I'm not talking about how far earth and heaven are away from each other. Jesus had Jesus did particular things all during his earthly life and ministry so that he could make sure that there was never any distance between him and God. And this is kind of like a peek into what kind of thing he did. He did it in the Garden of Gethsemane. He was connecting. He was getting closer. We see many times where Jesus scoots up and inches up, gets close to God. And we say, well, he's the Son of God. And the Bible even teaches that he is God. And said there couldn't be any. But he's teaching us, yes, there can be. Jesus knew that if he didn't pay close attention to this, and if he didn't work on it, and if it wasn't a part of something he did purposely and intentionally, that he would somehow or another drift away from God. And so here we see that Jesus is doing something that I think was a part of his regular life, part of his daily life, where he decreased the distance between him and his Father. Father up in heaven, I'm down here. And so Jesus knew that it was important for him to do things or to think things or to go through motions or have a discipline to make sure that there was never any distance between him and God. It's very important because you know that hymn that says, prone to wander, Lord, I feel it? We're like what? Sheep. What do sheep do? Well, we stray. We get off the track. We get out of the flock. So Jesus is trying to tell us, no, you got to work on that. It's not something that God does for you automatically. It's not a superpower or a spiritual gift where you're just always, it's something you've got to want. It's got something you've got to long for, something you've got to desire, and you've got to seek it. Jesus said, you've got to seek me. I want you to look for me. I've got you. I need for you to pursue me. And this is what Jesus is doing here to God. Now, he sent the multitudes away. Go away! He sent the disciples away. Okay, let's go on. Hit the next slide there, Ian. Now, let's go on to the multitudes, part 2. All right, let's go on. This is in John's Gospel, chapter 6, telling us something a little bit different that only John includes. This is after the feeding of the 5,000 also. John 6, starting in verse 22. The day following what? The day after Jesus fed the 5,000. That's right. The day following. When the people which stood on the other side of the sea saw that there was none other boat there, save the one wherein his disciples had entered, it was gone. The boat was gone because Jesus sent them away. And that Jesus went not with his disciples into the boat. He didn't go with them. He sent them away. But that his disciples were gone away alone. They noticed all that. Howbeit there came other boats from Tiberias, close to the place where they did eat the bread, after the Lord had given thanks. Okay, let's go to the next slide. When the people therefore saw that Jesus was not there, neither his disciples, they also took shipping and came to Capernaum seeking for Jesus. That sounds good. That sounds like, oh, maybe they're getting the point. And when they had found him on the other side of the sea, they said to him, Rabbi, how did you get here? He didn't answer the question. It sounded something like this. I walked. Sometimes when the Lord doesn't answer your question, it's because it wouldn't make any sense. How'd you get here? To the others, I walked. On the water? All right. Jesus answered them and said, Verily, verily, I say to you, you seek me. You seek me. That's good. I sent you away for that very reason. It's important not for us to always be having church or on the side of the sea, me teaching you. It's important for me to send you away to find out what you do. And you came seeking me. But he says, you seek me. Not because you saw the miracles, but because you did eat of the loaves and were filled. Why were they looking for Jesus? They were hungry.
They got hungry again.
They got hungry again, and they wanted some more. And Jesus, of course, he knows why they're seeking him. What if they were seeking him and said, man, you took the little boy's lunch and fed 5,000 people. We want to know more about you. If somebody had said that was what Jesus was looking for. But it's not what Jesus knew while they were there. He said, you just came here because it's time to eat again. You just came here because it's time to eat again. Now, you can read the rest of this passage, and it doesn't say that he sent them away again, but he did. He didn't feed them again, did he? He didn't feed them again. You could say it this way, couldn't you? He sent them away what? Hungry. He sent them away hungry. All right. You see, they were being tested. Y'all go away. And then they came back for the wrong reason. They failed the test. But it's very, 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 very important to understand they were being tested. And the Lord's going to test you too. And he does it all the time. And I hate it. I wish he wouldn't. But it's so important. And it's necessary. And it has value. It has meaning. It's important. All right. They failed the test. All right. That's the multitudes too. So he sent them. He fed them. Sent them away. Fed them. It doesn't say he sent them away. He did. He said, I'm not going to feed you today. I'm going to feed you today. Send them away hungry. All right, let's go on. Now, here's the rich young ruler. You know this story, don't you? All right, let's go on and hit that very quickly. Now, behold, one came and said to him, good teacher, what good thing shall I do that I may have eternal life? And he said to him, why do you call me good? No one is good but one, that's God. But if you want to enter into life, keep the commandments. And he said to him, which ones? Which ones? Okay, let's go on. Jesus said, you will not murder, you will not commit adultery, you shall not steal, you will not bear false witness. Honor your mother and father, your father and mother. You shall love your neighbors yourself. And the young man said, all of these things have I kept from my youth. What do I still lack? All right, let's go on. Jesus said to him, if you want to be perfect, go. I'm not telling you, welcome to the disciple band. I'm telling you, I'm sending you off. Go. Sell what you have and give to the poor. And you'll have treasure in heaven. Then come. Follow me. First, go. But when the young man heard that saying, he went away sorrowful, for he had great possessions. We don't know if this young man, that we call the rich young ruler, we don't know if he ever made his way back to Jesus.
Yeah.
He loved his stuff. He loved his stuff. He had lots of stuff.
His stuff had him. He didn't have it.
That's right. You're right. So Jesus sent him away. He said, okay, I'm sending you off. You need to go away. You think, that's a strange invitation. It'd be good if you had at least one disciple that had lots of money, don't you think? That's the way a politician would look at it. Hey, we need that guy. He can pay the bills. We could fire Judas and hire that guy. But Jesus said, no, you need it. I'm not telling you that what you need in order to have eternal life is to come. What you need is to go. Go. And then come. All right, let's go on, man. Now let's look at Judas, all right? Jesus answered, he it is. Now Jesus said, one of you tonight is going to betray me. One of you, he's at the Last Supper. He it is whom I shall give a sop. A sop. And when I dipped it, and when he had dipped the sop, he gave it to Judas Iscariot, the son of Simon. And after the sop, Satan entered into him. Then said Jesus unto him, what thou dost, do quickly. This is a very complex situation. You see Jesus saying, this is your last chance. This is your last chance. Here. You gave the sop to the honored guest, to the one, it would be like your best friend or the most important person there. You dip it in some gravy and you hand it to him and say, you know what Judas did?
sold him out.
He reached out and got that sop, popped it in his mouth. And that's when Jesus said, whatever you're going to do,
Too quickly.
get on with it. That's right. Get on with it. Go on. He was excusing Judas from the table. He was saying, you can go now. You've made up your mind. You see, it says, Satan entered in him. It implies that when he ate the sop, when he took it. You don't see that in the vintage painting of Judas. Have you ever imagined that in your mind? Judas reaching out, taking that thing and looking right in Jesus' eyes and going. You think kissing him later on? You think kissing him in the Garden of Gethsemane? You think that was cold? This was cold. Jesus was saying, me and you, the only two people here tonight who know what this is about, Judas. This is it right here. This is it. Everybody else was saying, is it I? Is it I? They were stupid. Judas knew who it was. And Judas looks at his eyes, looks right in those eyes. He reaches out and takes that salt, puts it in his mouth, chews it up, swallows it. That's like 1,000 times worse than that kiss he's going to give him on the cheek in the garden. Because Jesus is saying, come on man. Come on. Judas took it and ate it. Jesus said, all right, get on with it. Whatever you're going to do, go ahead and do it. You made up your mind, go ahead. And he sent him away. Sent him out, excused him. Told him to go. Now, no man at the table knew for what intent he spoke this to him. Some of them thought he was, because Judas had the bag, Jesus said to him, buy those things that we need against the feast, or that he should give him something for the poor. He didn't have him receive the sop, and went immediately out. It was night. It was night. You think it means that it was night? It was night. It was dark. It was dark. All right, let's go on. We've already looked at King Hezekiah. Go ahead and hit that scripture, Andy. Hit the next passage. Now, let me help you make a connection right here. We've looked at Matthew 14. The disciples are out on the Sea of Galilee, and a terrible, awful storm comes up. This happens all the time. I've seen it myself. I haven't been out there. If they have any inclination at all around there that the Sea of Galilee is going to have problems, they don't take tourists out. This is not a part of the Bible you want to experience, because they said it can really get dangerous and scary. So they don't just avoid it completely. They're trying to make a living, but they make a good enough living that they can tell you, no, we ain't going out today. Or we ain't going out right now. Matthew chapter 14. Now, these people had grown up around Capernaum. These were all Galileans. All of them were from around that area. They grew up on the shores of the Sea of Galilee. They saw this all the time. The fishermen, we know without any doubt, had seen many storms, had been out in many storms. If you go back to Matthew's Gospel, chapter 8, they're out on the sea. And Jesus is laying over in the bow, and he's got his head on a pillow. He's asleep. And a storm comes up. And Matthew tells us what all they started doing. They were lifting that bark and toting that bale. They were bailing water, and they were throwing out anchors and raising and lowering the sails. In other words, they were rowing. And finally, it says that they were doing all of their sailing tricks. They were doing all of their get us out of trouble tricks. It had worked up to this point. This is not anything new. This is not something that had never happened on the Sea of Galilee. It was a storm. This was a really bad one. And when they tried, it says that they were rowing and they were trying. It says, I get the impression is that they tried everything that they had ever tried before to save their lives. And then it says, and they went over to Jesus and they said, Lord, don't you care that we're perishing? What did Jesus do?
He woke up, looked around, said, peace be still.
Peace be still. That's right. And it says, the sea is calm. It says it scared the dead. That's in Matthew chapter 8. All right. Now let's go back to Matthew chapter 14. They're in a boat, and a storm comes up, and it looks like they're going to die. What's the first thing they think of? Where's Jesus?
Where is he?
Where's Jesus? They didn't row. They didn't dip water. They didn't get out. You know what we need right here? We don't need to do all of our sailor stuff, and we don't need to row. And what we need right now is Jesus. Where's Jesus? Amen. That's the first thing they thought of. That's what came to their mind. You'd think you could teach somebody that by just telling them, whenever you get into trouble, just think, where's Jesus? But it's hard to learn. And somebody looked out into the storm. Why in the world would you look out into the dark? Why in the world would anybody look out into the waves and the lightning? And they saw him walking toward them on the water. Remember I was talking to you, this is about distance. They were thinking, there's some distance between us and the Lord. Where is he? We need him. And then something clicked, something so important. And it was just with one of them, probably with just one of them. Peter saw him out there standing on the water. He wasn't walking the whole time, he was standing when he got there. You know what went through Peter's mind? We're not close enough. I'm not close enough to Jesus in this boat. I'm not close enough to Jesus in this boat. And he says, Lord, if that's really you, I want to get a little closer. And Jesus said, come on. Come on. Let's go on, Andy. It's a test. It's a test. And what we need to be learning is what can I do to get closer? This is not close enough. If I've got to walk on water to get closer, that's what I need to do. Yeah, there he is. We needed Jesus. We found out that what we need today is not more fishermen or sailing skills. Is we need the person here who can say, peace, be still. He's not here. Well, wait, there he is. And then one of them says, yeah, there he is. There he is. I can see him. There he is right there. But I need to get a little bit closer. I need to get a little bit closer. And I don't know if you can see it or not, but Jesus is really smiling because this is all going really well. This is all going really well. Come on. Come on. It's a test. And it's about distance. How close can I get? How close can I get? Let's go on. Now, I threw this in, this kind of popped in, and it seems like it's just kind of like, it's almost like an interruption in the flow. But in 1 John chapter 2, verse 19, the people at the church that John was writing to were being troubled because some of the people in their church went away. Some of the people in their church went away and weren't part of the church anymore. Now, I want you to think about this, and I really want you to come to believe it. Is that, yes, Jesus calls people to himself, but he's always, always giving people an opportunity to quit, to go away. Now, I learned this a long time before I even understood it. I'm the kind of pastor that if someone says, I don't think I really want to do that. I'm the kind of pastor who doesn't say, I don't say, please do it. You need to, you really, I don't do that. I say, all right, don't. Someone says, I'm thinking about quitting my position. I say, well, okay, quit. I'm the kind of pastor that I'd like to have a house full of people, but more often than not, God sends me to churches to say, there's the door. There's the door. You're unhappy. You can't seem to find your place or your way. You can't seem to get in the groove. You can't seem to fit in, or if there's something, you're just not happy or satisfied. Then go find some place where you can be happy. I'm that kind of pastor. Our pastor's like, please stay. Please get happy. What could we do to make you happy? What could we change to make you smile? What could we do differently about the way we do church that would make you want to be here? I don't do that. I don't think Jesus does that either. Listen to what John says. They went out from us, but they were not one of us. For if they had been of us, they would no doubt have continued with us. But they went out that they might be made manifest that they were not all of us. You see, that's the point. If you look at John's Gospel, chapter 8, Jesus said, have I not chosen you 12, and one of you is a devil? And it says there, he knew which one of them from the very beginning was going to betray him. He knew that Judas was going to betray him when he called him to be a disciple. He says, he knew from the very beginning which one of you did not believe. Judas never believed in Jesus. He was never a believer. And when Jesus was offering him the sop, he wasn't saying, continue being a disciple. He was saying, believe in me. You need to be saved, Judas. He was extending to him the invitation. And the invitation was not to eat the sop. He was saying, believe in me, Judas. Jesus had to take steps and do things to make sure that Judas was no longer a part of the disciple band. He had to get rid of him. Either come on in or get out. Rich young ruler, look, you need to come in. You need to go away. If you're looking for a reason or excuse to quit, come to me. I'll talk you into it. Oh, you need to quit. You need to get out of the way. You're slowing things down. We ain't got time to mess with you. You need to make up your mind. You're either one of us or you're not. You need to get with it. Get on board. Come on. And if you just need somebody to look at you and hurt your feelings and say, why don't you just go away? Then I'm going to be that guy. Why don't you just quit? Why don't you just go somewhere else? Because we got to do something right here, and all you're doing is creating a disturbance and a discord and a bitterness, and you're casting a pall upon all of our fellowship. Go somewhere where you can be happy, or at least leave here. He was trying to tell these people, look, the reason they left is because they were never here to begin with. The reason they're not one of you anymore is because there never was one of you. Let's go on in. This is what Jesus is doing. Yes, he's saying come. Yes, he's wanting to save people. He's wanting to add people. But also, every time we gather on Sunday for church, or whenever we do, the church is getting, not just us, but everybody. Jesus is saying, here, you need to make up your mind, Judas. You need to come on or go away. Because what we're about to do right here involves everybody being on board. Here it is. And he is saying, whatever you're going to do, there's the door right there. There's the door. That sounds ugly and mean, doesn't it? Now, let me close with this. The Lord sometimes creates distance. He does it. He says, go get in the boat and go without me, because there needs to be some distance between us, because there's something I'm teaching you. For Hezekiah, he said, the Bible says, the Lord left him so that he might know all that was in his heart. When you're being tempted and you feel like, when you're going through a test, when you're being tested, let me tell you something. This is the way it is for me. I don't know. You tell me later, not now. The sermon's already too long. When you're being tested, you're not going to feel the warmth and the closeness and the nearness of Jesus. You know what you're going to feel like when you're being tested and tried? When you're going through the Lord's SOP test, you're going to feel like he's left you. He's abandoned you, that he's gone. You're not going to feel his help and his nearness and his power and his closeness, because the test is really not about the circumstances or the situation you're in. It's about the distance between you and him. Because he is going to do this. He's going to step back. He's going to put you in a situation. He's going to put you right here, and here's all the different elements. Here are the people that are involved. Here's the situation. And then he's going to step back. He's going to withdraw. Just like he did from Hezekiah. Just like he did the disciples. He's going to step back. If you're not careful, you'll get caught up in all the details of the situation. But what it's about is, hey, I don't like this. I don't like this, because what he's trying to teach you is, we can't be apart. We can't be distant. The closer we are, the better. That's what I need for you to learn, that because if we're close, it doesn't matter what the circumstance of the situation of the details. It doesn't matter what they are, because if we're close. Now, I'm teaching you that, because what happens is look, I just stepped away for a minute because I want you to know what it feels like when you're trying to do something. You see, a test, every temptation and test that we go through is a little bit of a taste of what it would be like if Jesus wasn't there. What would you do if Jesus wasn't there? And the answer is, I don't want to find out. I don't want to find out what it'd be like without Jesus. Jesus said, well, you need to know how awful it feels, so that you'll say, I don't want to feel that. I don't want to feel that ever again. I don't know if this all fits together for you. This takes, I think, years of study and getting in, and I don't know if I've explained it completely well. But I think that God is probably doing this in your life, and sometimes when you feel like he's not there, or he's not hearing your prayers, or you don't feel like he's close, it's probably true. It's not your misconception. And what you say, okay, all right, okay, I can't hear you, can't feel you. I don't know what you want me to do. I can't hear your voice. I can't feel your Spirit's leadership. Okay, I get it. I don't like it. I don't like this. Jesus said, so that's all right. You passed the test. It doesn't matter about what you do and what you said and how the situation worked itself. He just saying, when the storm comes up, instead of thinking, oh, I can do this and I can do that and we could row, that when the storm comes up, where's Jesus? First thought, where's Jesus? Lord, I'm right here. Okay, that's all I need to know. That's all I need to know. You'll never know that. You'll never know that. I didn't until I looked around and it felt like he was gone. I hope that maybe you never go through a time in your life when you think that he's just completely left you. Where he's just left you. I was so glad to find that. I said, see there? I was mad at God. See there? And my friend said, yeah, but he was just trying to see what was in it. He left him. He left him. You don't really believe that he actually left him, do you? He left him. Let me get my Bible. I'll show you. Look right here. He left him. He left him. The Lord will do that so that you'll know what it feels like to be left. And then you'll make up your mind, I don't like being left. Please don't ever do it again. This is what I've learned. And it connects pieces and parts of my life. And I see that sometimes I think that what the Lord wants me to do is to learn to be smart enough to know what to say, what to do, and how to behave in a situation. Interacting with people. And that's not it at all. It's about you and me, you and him. Well, it's a lot to think about. I hope it's important to you. It's some of the most important teaching in my life that I had to learn, that I feel like the hard way, and maybe there's not any other way to learn it. Let me pray for you. Lord, teach us. Get us ready for what's next. For we ask it in your name. Amen. God bless you, folks. Thank you so much. Thank you, Andy. You did a good job. Thank you for letting me take a picture of these other rocks here. Put that with my pastor appreciation picture. I should have done it this morning when it was completely full. This will do.
That's kind of funny. Most of the rocks are the same size, but there's one